Hi, Todd Pouliot, Gateway Financial. Again, feel free to visit us at mygatewaymoney.com. I have a checklist here that we're getting a lot of calls lately. Might be due to the pandemic, might be due to other reasons, but the checklist is a very important checklist, and you need to take your time to complete this checklist. What issues should I consider before closing the estate? This checklist covers 25 of the most important planning issues before a client closes an estate for a loved one. And, again, I'm just going to kind of walk through this slowly, but I'll share my screen as we always do. And there's a couple different issues that we want to talk about here. Cash flow issues, asset and debt issues, administrative issues, and tax issues. Cash flow, and again, I'm going to try to walk through this slowly because it's good to understand that this checklist should not be started while you're still doing the grieving process. You've been named an executor in a will or a trust, and understand the process takes time and does not need to be done immediately. Some steps you actually might benefit from waiting on, and looking at this checklist. Make sure you understand it, make sure you digest it, and figure out what the best plan of action is. Obviously, under cash flow, is there any residual income for dividends or interest? Make sure you work with whatever custodian or is handling those assets. There may be some dividends still coming in, so you can't close the estate. And any outstanding money owed to the deceased person or an estate. It could be a private loan that's still owed money on. You want to make sure all those odds and ends are tightened up. And are any final expenses or fees payable to the estate? Make sure you understand those. Asset and debt issues. Any debts that need to be paid by the estate? And if not, are any heirs incurring any of the debts? Sometimes they may want to disavow their inheritance because of those debts. And was there any Medicaid issues and any property that needs to be liquidated before distributing the proceeds? That is a very interesting topic that you really need to consider beforehand, and look at any of those properties that have any debt obligations, such as your home and a mortgage, and also understand the tax efficiency of those properties and how to handle that best. I'm going to talk a little bit more about taxation issues in a few minutes here. Any assets that need to be retitled or distributed, reach required beginning date for RMDs. This is a big question. A lot of confusion right now because of date of death. How old were they? Changes with the Secure Act. Now it's 72, and whether or not those were done properly. So if somebody is deceased late in December, didn't take their RMDs because they're deceased, they normally take them very late in December. You have to make sure that those are taken care of. Any continuing care in a retirement community. Any refundable fees available to you should you have put somebody into a care facility and had a deposit with a extended contract and never actually showed up as a resident of that care facility. Also, property assets or life insurance that's not been identified. A lot of times people have paperwork all over the place. And again, one of the things that we do with our clients is we use this book in case you get hit by a bus. And we talk about those things that need to be put together. Where are all my assets and all my documents? Sometimes a safety deposit box at a bank is not the best situation, because the person who is the trustee of the will or the estate doesn't know where all those are, the key to the safety deposit box, nor do they have permission to go to that safety deposit box. So make sure you have things organized in the proper way. So make sure you look at all the other things as property, credit card miles, other types of bonuses that are out there, and having all of that put together in one easy locatable place for whoever has to find out. Life should be a mystery, but make it easy for the person to solve. Any unclaimed properties, I do that pretty much yearly for any unclaimed funds, and want to make sure that those are checked off. Any federal estate tax liability. Basically, the total value of the estate on the date of death is greater than the value 6 months after the date of death. This is why you want to be cognizant of taking your time. Don't rush things. So you may need to file Form 706 for alternate valuation date. It may reduce your estate taxes. This is a big issue that you want to make sure you slow down and understand the value 6 months later. Is it different, and can I reduce those taxes? Did the deceased person leave a surviving spouse any unused federal estate gift exclusion amount? Again, currently that value is $12.06 million if it's not been used. And are there any beneficiaries disclaiming their inheritance? We do see this. It's not that people go, oh, I get this money. Sometimes it doesn't benefit them to accept those assets. So sometimes there is disclaiming of their inheritance as an heir. You also make sure that those have special requirements to be a qualified disclaimer for those heirs. And probate, was it in multiple states? Are there any digital assets that should be preserved and are distributed? Again, going back to the book that we cover with our clients, you want to make sure that as we evolve and we're becoming much more technology driven, my personal library, although I have my bookcase and I have some beautiful books there, I have a lot of ebooks now that I have, or audiobooks that I have purchased over the years. And I usually go about through 19 or 20 books every year. What happens to those digital assets, and how do I pass those on to the next person? So make sure you preserve those digital assets for whomever needs them next. And any dependent children, how are we going to take care of that, and considering those finances for that dependent children? And any spousal or child payment obligations, we need to make sure that those are taken care of. Now, normally when we see spousal or child care obligations, hopefully there was a life insurance policy put into place to cover those for such an incident. Now, on to the tax issues. Again, really make sure you work with somebody who is versed in estate taxes. Not every CPA or enrolled agent or tax preparer can do these well. Make sure the person that you're working with understands the last tax return. So are heirs in a lower tax bracket than the estate? You may consider distributing income to the heirs prior to year end, ensuring those earnings are taxed at the lowest possible rate. And does a final tax return need to be filed? So again, that's that final 1040. And again, the surviving spouse can still claim married filing jointly if it benefits them. And the final federal income tax return is Form 1041. A lot of times people forget that that is a separate, different form. April 15th for the calendar year estate. And that'll be easy to do. And again, Form 706 within 9 months from the date of death. And don't forget 6 month extension you can file, and for 1040, 1041, and 706. And don't forget about your state returns for the estate. So again, make sure you have a qualified tax person who's not only just an enrolled agent or a CPA or a tax preparer, but somebody who actually knows the estate plan process. Did anybody own joint property? Make sure that you want to consider any step up in basis. We also have a nice little reference about, will I receive a step up in basis for appreciated property I inherit? It's a nice little flow chart that we can go through. Again, Form 706, again, I'll skip over that. But any other outstanding issues? Do files need to be organized and documented to show evidence of disbursement? Yes. Make sure you have everything organized. Make sure you have everything in a file that shows where those assets are properly sent away. You don't want to be challenged later on about being the trustee on this estate and or trust. So any state specific issues, obviously here in Ohio, we have our own issues. I don't know what's going on in say California or New York. Any additional filings that need to be made with the probate court. Make sure you are in constant contact, seeking beneficiaries and their consent or waivers of disavowing the inheritance, and any non-probate assets. So we want to make sure that we update title. And this does happen quite often. Husband and wife, spouse together, could have a joint tenancy with rights of survivor listed on their accounts. Typically, and it does happen, one spouse dies, and it could be within the year that the other spouse passes away. So we need to make sure that those assets are in alignment with the proper titling. So also consider retirement accounts with multiple beneficiaries, and make sure you're updating those beneficiaries. So somebody that owns a IRA has their spouse listed, the spouse becomes deceased. Now we're moving on to the contingents. Make sure you review your contingent beneficiaries and update those. Maybe those contingents can now become the primary person for disbursement of those assets. So make sure those are done following year by December 31st. Again, there is no crunch on time for any of this, but you need to make sure you have a checklist of all the things that are relevant to the estate and how to make sure that we're going to make sure all those things are in conjunction and in flow, and dotting the I's and crossing the T's are very important for whomever is handling this. So if you're watching this about your own estate, think about the person that's going to have to go through all these steps for you. Are they a person that's willing to cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure things are taken care of? And again, find yourself a book that's like this in case you get hit by a bus, a book that will tell you, how do I organize my life? How do I figure out where all my digital assets are? What about my passwords? Who's my mechanic on my car? All the things in life that matter to you on a daily, monthly, or yearly basis, that the person walking in can find those answers fairly quickly. This is not a great topic to discuss. We understand that, but that's why we're here to help you. So make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you great content. And the reason why we put this video together was because of something that our clients have told us that they needed. And that's what we need, is input from you. Feel free to contact us via email. You can find us on our website, mygatewaymoney.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll keep bringing you quality content like this. Thank you and have a great day.